sentiment, benevolence. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoga Vairocana Mahamudra Mani Padma Jivara Pravartaya.
Please stand and join me in chanting of the three refuges. In keeping with our tradition, we first take refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha in Sino-Korean and then in English. So please join in as best you can. Shivam Samse Chemam Chade Sanju Ilche Shishim Vinyane Shivam Samse Chemam Chade Sanju Ilche Sangaya Please repeat after me in English. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
And realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
I will penetrate the teachings
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
And resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please return now to your seats for another brief period of meditation. Can you hear me without the speaker? Okay. Please join me in some mindful stretching. An important part of our meditation practice is working with our bodies. Bringing your fingertips along the ridge of your skull. A little bit of a head massage to help wake yourself up. Stretching the earlobes. Now breathing in and leaning forward to stretch the lower back. Holding all the way forward for a good stretch. Breathing in this position. Stretching upwards. And then to the left. Coming back to center. Stretching to the right. This time as you sit up, clasp your hands behind your back. Bring your shoulders back. Breathe in and then stretch forward. Sitting up, we continue to work with the spine. Looking over your left shoulder, bringing your eyes as far around as you can for a good spinal twist. Returning to center, twisting to the right. Eyes as far back as you can go. This time as we return to center, we place our hands right at our hip bones. We're going to do some big circles with our body. So breathing in, breathing out. And reverse. Place your right hand on your left ribs and then lean over to the right. Returning to center, we reverse. Clasping your hands behind your head, some sharp outward breaths. Twisting right. Stretching upwards to the sky. So if you're comfortable doing so, I invite you to come and sit a bit closer for our Dharma talk today. Reading today from the Dhammapada chapter called The Master. Meditate, live purely, be quiet. Do your work with mastery. By day the sun shines, and the warrior in armor shines. By night the moon shines, and the master shines in meditation. But day and night, the one who is awake shines in radiance of the Spirit. So, good morning, dear Dharma friends.
Good morning, Mom.
So, these past weeks, Haji Sunam has been talking to us about ways to deepen our practice. Working with the meditation practice, working with our bodies, working with inspirational readings. And she also has spoken about residency as an opportunity to come and deepen your practice for a period of time. So today, we're going to have an opportunity to hear about the residency experience from a few of our residents. And I will share a few thoughts to begin. And then after the residents speak, there will be opportunity for questions. However, I would like to begin. Haji Sunam, are you ready for the Chino reading?
Sure.
Okay. Turn this on. So if you could come and sit here.
Where?
Right here. And I will move over.
Testing. Very good morning. Welcome in. When I first turned up, and some of you might have just first turning up, and if you can't hear very well? Oh, okay. When I first turned up, I was on the back of a motorcycle with my boyfriend. And one thing led to another. And 40 years, more than 40 years later, I still have been involved. And those early days were just, it felt like a bunch of us from the 10 directions turned up together because we were inspired by the community living and all of that, and also not so inspired by the lives we were leading. Very well, but Anyway, this same kind of spirit I feel from one of the ancestors in our tradition. His name is Chinul, Chinul. Chinul, can you say it?
Chino.
Yeah, about 1,000 years ago. Korea was a mess. There were invasions from the Mongols, and the Buddhist order was corrupt. And Chino went to take some examinations and with other very sincere-hearted people, and he just made a declaration. One day, I made a pact with more than 10 fellow meditators, which said, after the close of this convocation, we will renounce fame and profit and remain in seclusion in the mountain forests. We'll form a community designed to foster constant training in samadhi and prajna, concentration and wisdom. Through respect of the Buddha, recitation of sutras, and even through common work, we will each discharge the duties in which we are assigned and nourish the self-nature in all situations. We vow to pass our whole lives free of entanglement and to follow the higher pursuits of accomplished and true ones. Would this not be wonderful? Yeah. So, in some sense, I think 1,000 years later, here we are again in the same situation. Yeah. And one of the things that I would say to you, that one of the expressions that Chino said that has just really endured, there's many actually, his teachings affect our whole tradition. It is not that you cannot do it. It is that you do not do it. This is very sobering in a certain sense. It also is very inspiring that we do have the ability. It's whether we actually act upon it. It is not that you cannot do it. It is that you do not do it. So with that, let's hear from the others. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me.
So it's very nice to connect to our legacy when we think about the residency program that we offer here. We, of course, are not formal monastics. We're not formal monks. We don't get up at 3 a.m. every day and practice until 10 p.m. every day. We have a modified version that we use here in the West. And so those who are in our community are kind of a mix of people who wish to pursue formal training and those who wish to come for shorter periods of time to deepen their practice through living in a meditation community. So before I introduce our speakers, I want to read a reflection from Great Vow Monastery, who's in Portland, Oregon. And they too have a residency program. And I just sort of love this description to set a context for what we do. The essence of Zen practice is to respond appropriately with your whole being to whatever life brings you in each moment. Life is unpredictable. Temple residency reflects this unpredictability. It gives you the opportunity to meet challenges by adapting to the varying schedules and expectations. Often visitors come, spontaneous meetings are held, and public events are frequent. Since our schedule is already demanding and our sleep periods are shortened, it's important to use all the tools we have acquired through our practice in responding smoothly and fully to these circumstances. Excuse me. In life, we never know what is coming next either from others or ourselves, but we can do our best to be open, balanced, and tranquil in whatever circumstances arise. The temple is not just a nice place to live with a supportive group of like-minded people. It is a place in which you are called upon to explore the great matter of your own life and death. So with this little commentary, I'm going to turn this platform over to two of our residents. I haven't seen Hassan, she's not here, right? So we have two of our residents today. We have Pashu and Soren. So if you would please come here.
I was gonna say, I was gonna wave you up when I sat down,
Yeah.
but we don't want to put you on the spot either.
Sagong.
Oh, yeah, Sagong, you're invited to add commentary and questions. Yeah. But I didn't want to put you on the spot. You just walked in and all of a sudden you're expected to speak. My goodness. Although we did say,
I will do it.
we did say circumstances change all the time. Okay, so you're invited to come and speak. Sagong, if you wish, you're welcome to join. But I don't want to put you on the spot.
I will join.
Oh, great, awesome.
Are you gonna set it up?
Oh, excuse me.
You're invited to.
There's one. So we just ask these people, so you know, Sagam, to just speak about their, maybe for 5 minutes, about their experience. Yeah. And then take questions.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Sogan.
Teachers, friends. So my name is Sogan. I have lived here at the temple for about 2.5 years now, and I was having a really hard time thinking, like, where should I start talking about my experience and how I came here and whatnot. My meditation this morning really gave me some insight. As I'm meditating, I can take this off, and listening to the heater drone on, that to me is kind of indicative of what a lot of living at the temple has been, and that's working with diversions. Life is just full, chock full, whether you're sitting in traffic or being called upon to wake up at 5:30 every day. There are just so many things that we don't want to do on a regular basis, and learning to
You should say I.
I should say, instead of speaking for everyone, that I do not want to deal with. And, sitting here and listening to that heater and not having that kind of anger, that annoyance come up has really been a big part of the process of me living here. So I came here in April of 2019. I had been living with another former resident, Wancho, who was part of the Sangha. I had been coming here for about 8 months, so I was familiar with the temple. I'd been coming to Sunday services, felt like 25 minutes of meditation was not a huge hurdle to jump through. And I had asked Haju, can I stay here for about 3 months? I'll have a trip to Europe planned. I just need something temporary. Haju said, you should really stick around for about 6 months to get the full experience. Here we are 2.5 years later. So it was very, very hard at first for me. I am not a morning person. I have worked in restaurants in the past, various industries that called upon me to be up late. I'm just kind of a night owl. So waking up at 5:30 and coming to practice every day was hard. And I was just very grateful. Everyone's really willing to work with people wherever they're at. So the expectation was, you don't have to come to practice every single day. It's important to find a nice balance between your life and life at the temple. And over the course of time, over the course of years, it's totally flipped to the point where now if I don't come to morning practice, I really feel it affecting my entire day. I've discovered practice in various areas of my life, not always on the cushion, but often running, walking, writing, chanting, all work practice. We have many different forms that takes place. But meditation and the prostrations in the morning are definitely how I start most days, and without that, I really notice a difference in my day. So that brings to maintaining a healthy work-life balance at the temple. Different people come in doing different things. We've had neuroscience majors working alongside entrepreneurs, alongside people who are, not working so much, but really focused on their responsibilities at the temple, doing woodwork, in other ways, contributing to the health of the Sangha. So there, aside from the various opportunities throughout the day to practice, so there's morning practice, afternoon practice, and evening practice, 6 days a week. We have morning practice 7 days a week. That really gives you an opportunity to practice as much as you possibly can, depending on your interests. For me, that meant initially just practice once a day. Even at this point, most days I make a point of having practice once a day. So living with the Sangha itself, communication, probably one of the most important things I'd stress to any new resident. Everyone is very understanding of your life responsibilities as long as you communicate. Sorry, I'm nervous. There are many different personalities in the time that we've been here. I really enjoyed living with, as I said, entrepreneurs, people kind of in a similar vein to what I do, who have helped me in my professional life, to neuroscience majors who are really focused on school. And all these people, some of them I get along with, and sometimes you don't get along with everyone. That's kind of like a family in many different ways. You don't get to pick who you're related to. But that in itself is a big practice. It's really given me a lot of patience and working with people who I may in the past would have just avoided, as well as working on myself. I'm sure that various aspects of my behavior drives other people up the wall. So being very cognizant of kind of how I interact with others. I'm ready to pass it off right now. Is that all right?
That's great.
Okay. Sorry.
Next.
So Dawn, would you like to go next?
I don't care. Fine.
All right, great.
Would you like that?
Yeah, I think some experience about someone who did live at the temple who could reflect on it.
I came to the temple at a different time of life from many of you. I didn't come to Buddhism until I was 70, which was a few years ago. I'm 76 now. And so I was at the end of a marriage that was not doing very well after 30 some years. And I was looking for an experience. I was wanting, I had found on the internet a program in Newfoundland where you could go and be a nun for a while, just 9 months or whatever. So I needed a meditation teacher, and the only Buddhist experience I had was a small book that I had carried for years and years and kept and would read now and then. That was my experience. And so I thought, well, I would come to this temple and see if I could find a teacher here so that I could send this application in. So I talked with Haju, and she said, why don't you just stay here and try this? I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
So I thought, well, okay, I'll think about that. And then in the next weeks things got really bad at home, and I had, so I then said, can I come? And she said yes. And I also came with what I called a broken heart, and the doctors called congestive heart failure. So after 1 week, I was in the hospital with this for a couple days, and I thought, oh, I've lost my opportunity, and they will never take me back. So I didn't really tell them quite what was wrong, that I was ill and was staying with my daughter. And so I came back, but I lived on the top floor. I called it the mountain that you had to climb to get to the top floor. And, I'd go up a flight of steps and I'd go, and I'd go up another. I mean, I was really sick. I didn't know what it was really. But anyway, got better. And the experience is really awesome to be here. What stood out for me from your reading this morning was free of entanglements, that this life that was they were trying to construct in the mountains. And I think that is one of the most beautiful things I've gotten from practice of Buddhism, is free of entanglements. Not that I'm completely free, but they are a little bit more on a healthy level for sure. But when you're in the temple, what I found, now see, again, I'm at a different age, but I found the relationships very wonderful. The people that I lived with, the clergy and lay people, were all very different. And when you're living here, none of them had to meet my ego needs. Like, it wasn't my partner, wasn't my daughter, wasn't my, whatever we get into with that ego thing. And so I really did learn everybody was more like a cousin, somebody you were sort of related to. And then every time you saw them, you were so glad to see them. And you just picked it up from the last time you saw them. But it also, what it does is release a kind of love that's non-attached. You just can purely love people. And that is a really different experience, I think. When I worked here, I also worked outside. And there's always a tension, depending on why you come here. And if it's I believe it's probably easier, maybe, if when one comes here, they say, okay, I'm coming for 6 months. Mine was sort of, I don't know. So I didn't know if I was clergy or lay, so there's always that kind of pull. So that's a really interesting discipline, to figure out your place and how much you can give and want to give. And there's always, and it's so interesting to live here. So many interesting people, opportunities for talks and study groups and work, manual labor as well as study. And so it's a super rich environment. I guess that's it.
We're going to ask questions, so
Yes.
we will, yeah. Okay, thank you, Siobhan. Yeah. This is called appreciation for just
Good idea. I think of myself as being quite loud, but this will probably help. Sorry. Say quiet.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Hi, friends.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Pashu. Some of us have met. Thank you for both of you. This is really beautiful. So I wrote a letter when I decided to come back, and I really wanted to read you guys the letter, but my cell phone died. So I'm going to tell you a couple of different things. One was the first time I met Haju was someplace totally different, and she was sort of demanding or like encouraging, like, come on, help me sing along to the song. And I'm way in the back of this wedding, and I yelled, I am singing. We had never met. I'm the only person probably singing back at her. And that came to me after it was suggested that I moved in here. I moved to Ann Arbor to do a postdoc, and my work was already in the use of contemplative practices and mindfulness in higher education in particular, and I worked in Buddhist organizations. I worked with Mirabai Bush, if any of you know who she is. I worked very closely with her for a long time. My research was about meditating with my students, so I came at it from kind of a different angle, and I had practice, although I did not consider my sitting practice to be my primary practice. It's still kind of an interesting question to look at how all of these practices come together. But what I didn't have was experience with religion other than early other decisions. So I couldn't find a place to live. Ann Arbor is really expensive, you guys, have you noticed? It's ridiculous. When I was looking for a place to live, I was like, do you think you're Manhattan? Because you're the Midwest, Ann Arbor. You're the Midwest, you're not Manhattan. So we have a mutual friend, actually Karima. And at one point Karima said, why don't you live at the temple? And I thought, why would I do that? And all of a sudden, every story Karima had ever told me came together. Oh, that was your mom. Oh, you grew up in that temple. And it all came together. And I think of it as a God shot, which is something we say in a different practice I have, which is I didn't have any other choices, it felt like. And I had 2 weeks before my postdoc start. And I met with Haju and Maum. I submitted an application. I reviewed what was expected of me online. And I thought, I've done worse for less. And so we met. I just want you to know, Maum didn't want me to move in. Just so you know, Haju was down. But Maum was like, do you have another place you could go? Maum doesn't like when I leave now, so I'm speaking for her, but I could be wrong. So, and I moved in, and I just rolled with it. I had no experience with Zen like this or Korean Buddhism. Like I'm sure a lot of you showed up and were like, we're chanting in Korean, far out. Okay, I guess that's what I'm gonna do now. But then a bunch of things happened. One, a pandemic came, and also my postdoc ended over a year ago. And why am I still here? So my situation, all of us have a really unique situation, and my situation has its own uniqueness, which is I own a home, I'm married and partnered, and I take care of my parents, including my disabled family members. And I also just got a PhD and was rising in my field, so to speak, and I decided to take a year out of the academy. And for those of you who have PhDs, like that's a really risky decision, right? But it also felt like, if not now, when? The burdens of our lives, they keep coming. There's I own a home, I have to pay a mortgage, I gotta take care of that house there. I have disabled family members, my parents are like, there's always something to pull us away. And I say this because I am a person who's really pulled, like really pulled. And I'm here, and there's a difference. I'm also in the training program now. I mean, that's part of what changed, right? I made a commitment to come back and actually learn it, but it's learned, as we all know from sitting on our mat. I learn it in my bones, from their bones, from your bones. I don't know how to explain it, but so I have to keep bringing myself back here. And I've seen a lot of flexibility and accommodation, so it alters my imagination. There's a saying, how many doorways are there into the temple?
84,000 at least.
84,000. Wow, that's a lot of ways in. So we probably got to guard a lot of places. But also, there's a lot of ways in. While I've been here, there was a person who really needed retreat. So she only lived here once a week sometimes. Like there's a lot of different ways that it happens. But the main thing that I thought for myself, and I speak to that part of yourselves that says the same thing, which is I'm pulled, I'm pulled, I'm pulled. But also now here's an opportunity. And it may not seem like an opportunity, but it is. And every time I come back, I come and go, as you know. Every time I come back, it's an opportunity to be closer to this. So that's all I'll say to that.
Yeah, for all of you.
So let's open the floor to questions.
And so Gone, maybe you could turn your head. Is there anything in the chat?
Oh, good idea.
I can turn my head, but that's about it.
Okay.
Is there
well,
anything in
floor
the
is
chat?
open.
Can you read it?
It's not a question.
Okay, let's see, there's a couple of things.
Oh, it was a comment to Sagong, which is non-attached love, beautiful and spot on.
Oh, good
From
reading.
Julianne Tionda.
And she also says, beautifully said, everyone. Thanks for sharing.
Okay, well, I'd like to start out with a question while you think of questions. What surprised you?
I was thinking about this. One of the things that surprised me about me was how disciplined I am. Because I think of myself as undisciplined, right? Because I'm late to stuff. And what I actually learned is I'm very loyal. And so I'm being pulled with tensions all the time. So I was amazed to learn how disciplined I am, not how I think of myself. So that's what surprised me about me. But the thing that surprised me about living with others was it's the mundanity of it. Oh, we had the same surprise. So that surprised me.
Yeah, well, speak about it, please.
Yeah, I feel like this is something that a lot of people say, just how much living at the temple is like everyday life. Like what we do every day is, yeah, it is. We wake up, we cook a meal, we do dishes together, we clean bathrooms, we take the trash out, we feed the chickens and do eating, and it's just kind of, and a lot of what I've learned, I feel like I've learned a lot of practical skills that I didn't really have beforehand. I haven't owned a home. You know, I've lived in a home, and my parents, we did some maintenance, and we hired people for certain things. And here it's like unless it's really complex for the most part, we try to do it ourselves. That meant, you know, digging up this cobblestone path to dig a trench underneath to run internet to this building. Like, I've never dug up a path before. You know, all sorts of work in the garden, learning about plants, learning about chicken maintenance. Yeah. And it's fantastic. And having that just be like totally normal. Now I've been around chickens for so long. It's like, yeah, we have a bunch of chickens. So what? Doesn't everybody have chickens? Like, yeah. My family members save all their compost, and we know that there's a place where we can feed the compost to living animals that give us eggs. It's a beautiful thing.
I want to ask you all something. Can you raise your hands if you've ever considered residency here? Come on, tell the truth. More of you have considered. Okay, you have. So what's stopping you?
Children?
There's rooms. It has to be negotiated, okay? So the sense, there's things, right? Magama.
Yeah, same thing. Children,
Little peoples.
current family responsibilities.
Same. Just
All
agreeing.
children.
I couldn't convince my husband.
I get it.
I would say my cat.
Oh, yeah.
What did you say?
Cat. My cat.
Your cat. Oh, children.
Actually, I won't be able to get this past you, but I kind of think about the whole year commitment to a rental, especially in a place like Ann Arbor. It makes it very difficult to spend half a year and what other people have said too about things like cats.
Okay. So I'm not going to speak to the children issue because I don't have those things, little people. I mean, the children problem. But I
Don't
am
call it a problem, please.
the children situation. Thank you. I'm not used to speaking to the Sangha, but I do have all the other things, cat, dog, and I want to say one of the things that happens when you open, for me, when I open my imagination to an alternative where I cannot see the solutions, is that the solutions come from other people once I'm in conversation about it. So even just talking about the cat and the rental thing might even open up new alternatives, but certainly increasing conversation with any of us may lead to imaginations you hadn't, that this is what happens to me that I hadn't considered before. I was talking about it with a group of people when the temple was recommended. And it seemed like, no. And so much of that is like that, right? Things come to us. I'm gonna take this away.
I was thinking, I'm a therapist, so I think about things a lot and whatever. So it does seem to me that, especially in an Eastern tradition, our lives are divided into sections, which I think as Westerners we don't really have. Like the early years would be, being a child in the home and getting an education, being a student. Then there would be the householder and all the responsibilities that go with having children of our own in our own household, and then a time for spiritual. So that's a nice formula, it seems to me, but even we don't release people at age 60 to go and have a blessing to retreat from our society. So I think that there is a model here where you can come once a week or for a weekend or a few days during the week. And it seems to me that's a really good thing to build into your life as a mother or a father, to renew yourself. Because if you aren't on top of it, I've had 5 kids, so, if we're not on top of it, they are certainly not doing that well. So we really have to protect our own selves and our own capacities. So I think that it's beautiful that we have that flexibility, and I think we do, to maybe not pack up and leave for 6 months, your family, but certainly for a weekend or longer, or even a week. I don't know what you can get, but just know that it's good for you as the leader of the family to also be way in touch with your own spiritual or strengths and things like that.
What about the surprise to you, Sagong?
Well, everything was, because I have been a householder. I've had 5 kids over 22 years. First one, last one, 22 years apart, and then everywhere in between. So I always changed diapers, taught people how to drive, helped them walk, that was just all the time. So I was so a householder and so a mother and so a wife. So coming here was just really different. And I think they've spoken, the way of the Buddha is everyday life, and everyday life is the way of Buddha. That's quite profound, and you get that sense here. You learn that Buddhism isn't something exotic. It's not something you have to believe in, and it is everyday life, and it is simply hard. It's simple, but such a discipline, and it just grows and grows. There's so much to understand about it. So that's a good feeling too. And it's smart. What else to say? It's smart, and it doesn't, you can still be yourself. You don't have to give up whatever, but it just helps you be such a better person, I think.
Maybe just 1 or 2 more questions.
A pragmatic, practical question. Given that there's a pandemic, what are the procedures for moving in under these conditions?
Please be in touch. Let's be in conversation about it. I think that that's the main thing, is that each of these things, pandemic or cats or rent, all of them have to be discussed, I think.
Children too.
And children. We did have someone living here with children. I think more than once. You guys, I had this other thing that I wanted to tell you that surprised me when you were talking, which is when I was first here, I was really intimidated the first weekend that all the Dharma Guardian and Dharma students showed up. And I was so stressed out about it because I'm used to being in performance mode, like being a caretaker for all of the people, or teaching, or like pretending like I'm like I know what I'm doing as a person with a PhD, whatever it is, it's like always on. And so the thought of the place where I live, where I go to hide, there's gonna be like 30 more people. And that morning, I remember everyone piling in, and I turned to my home and I had this epiphany. I didn't have to host anybody. I didn't have to make eye contact. I just had to do my part. And it was like gender liberation in that moment. I didn't have to tell you where the fancy tea was or get out the doilies. I don't know how to explain it. But I turned to my mom and said something like that. And she understood without me even going into details as to why. And she said, "That's right." And I thought, I'm never leaving. No matter what comes in my life, I'm going to have some relationship to this place where literally I only have to do my part without that other stuff. There you go, friend.
Another pragmatic question. What are the expectations daily as far as the responsibilities of cooking or cleaning or anything that's needed to run a household?
I think that it really depends on each person's individual situation. We have people who are maybe they're going through something right now and they really can't contribute much at all during the course of the week. And we understand that, it's part of everybody working together and picking up when someone needs help. There is definitely kind of the expectation that you're around, for breakfast, that we live in community for a reason. So, if you're not really coming to practice or breakfast regularly, then it really just becomes more of a place to live rather than an actual temple experience. That being said, there is a lot of flexibility for people's needs. So we have people who sometimes have to work until 3 a.m. and it's pretty hard to wake up at 5:30 when you've been working till 3. But as long as you communicate, as I said, I think communication is a really big part of this. As long as you kind of manage expectations and speak up about what you're looking for and what your needs are, I think most situations can be worked around.
So again, maybe you could describe the formal temple schedule as to what it is.
Sure. So Monday through Friday, the schedule is for the most part very similar. It's 5:30 wake up, half hour to shower, stretch, and wake up a little bit before 6 a.m. practice. Practice goes till around 7 to 7:15, at which point breakfast is served at 7:15. Breakfast goes 8:15, though occasionally, people have work needs. Some people need to leave at, 10 to 8 to get somewhere by a certain time. And once again, as long as you're communicating and saying, I have to work these days, totally understandable. Afternoon practice is 11:45, before a 1 p.m. lunch. Lunch goes once again until around 1:45. Evening practice is at 6:30. And then evening practice goes for about an hour. And then evening bell, kind of to mark the ending of the day, is at 8 p.m.
Can I say something? I would like to expand a little bit on breakfast time because I think it's really important, the whole morning schedule. And I think if you live here, if you can participate in that, that's really, really important. So we practice, we go to breakfast. But breakfast is not just breakfast. Mm-hmm. We have a reading and then a reading or two, and we comment a little bit. And what I didn't say here is you learn so much about speech and listening, good speech, right speech, and listening, because we don't allow crosstalk till everyone has had a comment on the reading. So that keeps you in a listening mode. You're just listening, and then you can speak. So there are many opportunities to hear what other people have to say, and a good disciplined learning about listening and right speech. That, I think, was one of the greatest things I got from living here, was learning that.
Nice.
Thank you. I'm wondering, can the three of you lead us in the 4 great vows?
Sure.
And then we'll have some announcements.
It's hard not to go on.
all
beings one body, I vow to liberate. Blind passions one root, I vow to terminate. Dharma gates one mind, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to realize.
And then if you would please pass the mic to Sogan. I mean to, Samoon.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy to have heard all your commentary on living here. I've wondered a lot myself. And for me, when I tell people about the temple and having a residency program, I get positive responses every time. And just to think about it, it's kind of an amazing thing that we have a residential place right here in our own town or nearby where you can live. And there's so many other things you can do too, like speaking of how things are workable and through communication, we can always come here for work days. We just had a Sangha work day yesterday. We have one coming up next week. We can chip in after services. I try to spend as much time here as I can. And speaking of all these things you can do here, we've also got retreats. Sometimes they're overnight, which can be a great way to get a residential experience here. This one coming up on the day after Thanksgiving, or maybe the Saturday after Thanksgiving. That's a one-day retreat here from 9 to 5. And then similarly on December 4th, another Saturday, 9 to 5, we have kind of more of an instructional meditation retreat. It's called the Intro to Meditation class, one day. We have yoga classes here. It's Tuesdays, 6:30 to 8. Practice period, getting into the Sunday things. We're going to be meeting at the conference room in the Sangha house across the way. I'm sure other people can show you if you're looking. And it's been going on for several weeks. Okay, we've got recovery Dharma after, again, I think we're going to be out here in the lobby. And one thing for me that's new that I spoke to most of you about was contract tracing, signing in with your name and email address. If I didn't ask you, could you do me a favor and also sign out on your way out at one point? We'll just kind of keep that as an extra safety measure. And again, thank you for all your contributions, all the people that live here and work here and come here. And we really need to have you. I mean, that's how it all works. And we appreciate your time and your monetary donations, just being here. Glad to see you all.
So let's all stand and we'll make 3 formal bows. So after you say this, you can please lead us.
Face the camera. Haju Suna, could you face the camera? Is it okay?
Face the,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
People who are watching us online, we'd appreciate any comments you have in the chat. Thanks for being here.